episode 18. We're not doing 25 because it was never released yet. After part 1 of the finale, quote unquote part 1, which is episode 24, episode 18 released. I guess we're gonna be reviewing this. It's a bummer, but we gotta do it. Although, just to take back what I said from like episode 24 review at the end, at least for the thumbnail, I thought it would be an Alya episode, which if you know my stance on Alya for this season, it's kind of mixed. But I'm glad I was wrong, because it's a Kagami episode. And, well, brace yourself, because the introduction that we're going to be going to now, a huge lore drop, and basically looks like we assumed the oldest theory in the fandom apparently applies to a different character. So, in the very beginning of the episode, we see this mysterious woman who is apparently having this fan here, a fan of feathers, taking a feather out. If you guys don't know, to put the color scheme in the fan, this is the Peacock Miraculous in action, and it seems like this might be one of its original holders. And because of this, with basically just making this sentimonster, the feather actually places and been absorbed in the middle of this holder's stomach. Basically, meaning that they're making a child. Now, you might be wondering, who is this person, by the way, and who is this child they speak of? Well, after placing it, we do get a switch of the scene. And yes, this is the mother and child. And this baby here is Kagami. That's right, Kagami is a sentimonster. Now, this is the biggest lore drop, or at least the biggest reveal for the entire series. And I don't believe it's been foreshadowed at any point. It might have been foreshadowed for at least Adrian or Felix, but never Kagami. But it does make sense for a lot of things. And it looks like the typical Japanese anime tradition trope of the father never being there for the child. It does seem like there's a reason, because applying this Kagami, and with that same transition scene that we saw in a few seconds ago, this mother, the original holder of the Peacock Miraculous, is Mitsurugi. So Mitsurugi uses the muck to make a sentimonster and gave birth to it. It's weird, but interesting, but also it explains why there is no father, why Kagami never mentions a father and stuff like that. And, well, that would actually explain some weird abilities that she actually has, at least being on par with being superhuman at just her normal state as a civilian. That would be a lot explained. But yeah. Now, I spent a little bit too much time. Let's speed through some more stuff here, because it's pretty quick. We cut back to the beginning. There's a sleepover. Kagami is basically in charge of the sleepover because it's her turn. She wants them to watch this samurai movie, which basically has the theme that kind of almost relates to what kind of happened to her in a way, right? But since it's a sleepover, there's gonna be some interruptions, even if it is at Miranet's place. You got to know it's basically Miranet's parents, and it's always been a kind of a little bit of a trope in Miraculous, or at least a gag, that Miranet's parents are usually kind of overbearing, or at least too encouraging, too affectionate to their daughter, to a point where they might overstep boundaries. But the thing is that a parent kind of has to do sometimes like this, as it just show affections, how much they actually care, how much they want to support them, all that stuff. And to be honest, while we might like our own boundaries, I feel like a lot of people would actually appreciate to actually have parents just like Miranet's, because, you know, they might be a bit much at times, but they do mean well in the best of ways. And yeah, of course, Miranet does say that since it's a sleepover, you know, you might have to have pajamas and stuff. Miranet does not know that these two actually wear pajamas. Well, the thing is, because she said that they need PJs, the parents, besides, you know, giving them some space, they decide to join in. Yep, they just wear their own pajamas and watch the movie with them. Yes, her friends are most likely just normal. And I think it's just because, well, Marinette's parents are very nice to all of them. They couldn't just say no. And besides, they know at least boundaries for girls' night at the very least. Kagami does ask if Marinette's parents were always like this. Marinette says yes, it can be annoying sometimes, but she does appreciate because she understands where they're coming from at the very least. Which, to be honest, in terms of basically for a child to basically be okay with this from their parents and knowing why they're doing this, kind of shows a bit of maturity, at least for a teenager for Marinette, which, to be honest, is pretty much like a really big head start for anybody going through mental maturity, at least to understand what their parents really want from them and all that stuff. It's actually pretty nice. Of course, with everybody else, I think for some of them they basically did explain that, well, yes, they do agree. They really like her parents. Later, Alya got the call in the middle of that movie, basically from her parents saying that the mom has a baby ready soon, which would be a baby girl. And it seems like the parents are actually getting pretty good along with each other. Don't know why I'm messing up my words now. Damn. Alya's really happy and tells everybody the news, and everybody is basically happy for her that she will have another member of another member in her family. Everybody's happy except for Kagami. Kagami's just kind of stayed quiet and actually will watch the movie by herself, kind of just alone, which is a little upsetting. Marinette does actually check in on her, but Kagami says everything's fine. Marinette doesn't want to actually press more onto this matter, so she kind of left her alone, although feeling, neglected, that she couldn't really help Kagami there. But Marinette does know that at the very least, trying to stay out of another person's business, because, well, we all know what happens, but it's a good thing that Marinette doesn't actually try to push into her nose into like somebody else's business at this point in time. So she's growing as a character, which is good. After the night, Kagami went home, going to see her mother. However, her mother's pretty busy, and so Kagami just gotta leave the food that she brought home from Marinette's place on her mother's front door and goes to her room, which would be a floor upstairs. Marinette does call Kagami to check and make sure she was actually alright. Kagami, with at least a straight face and a forcible smile as she tried to put on, not a very crazy one, of course, like Marinette would usually do, just one that's pretty much like a very normal smile. But Marinette can actually see through that. Really wants to make sure if there's anything she could do, she could actually, ask for another sleepover. Kagami can redo her try again, and they would do, pretty much what they were doing last night, but with no interruptions. Hopefully that will make it up to her. Well, Kagami was actually pretty, really happy with Marinette's offer. She says no because social allowance. Marinette asks what's that. Her mother gives her at least some time of day or night to spend with her friends, but just for a short time, and specifically how many people she should visit. Let's just say that Kagami is really lucky to actually go and meet with her friends from the very beginning and is allowed to. But she's kind of getting that Adrian treatment, which is pretty sad. And while Marinette wants to, convince her to, or at least talk to her about it, because this is very important for Kagami, and Marinette knows it, but Kagami just kind of pushes her away for that. After basically hanging up Marinette, Long comes out and basically just talks to her about how she's feeling, of course. And Kagami knows that because of all this emotion that she's actually feeling right now, and the pressure that she's holding on to just becoming the best for her mother in her eyes, she's starting to wonder if, because, well, thinking about like just how Alya's parents just have another baby. They had another baby because, well, of course, she understands the concept of how babies are made in a, well, not the biological sense, just, the normal sense of like, if two people love each other, that's kind of about it, right? But, because she's made of a different way, she already knows that she's a sentient monster, and it does seem Long knows about it too. Now I'm wondering if Felix knows about it. She actually just asks Long if those same emotions of love is what she's made out of. Unfortunately, Long does not know the answer to that, as is not exactly his, you know, forte. So Kagami, pretty much confused, rushes towards her mother's room without her phone. I'm willing to think if Marinette was able to talk to Kagami, it could have been gone much worse, or at least in a more positive twist, could give her at least some more hope and try to basically, believe. But I think Kagami is technically doing a good thing here, although leaving Marinette out of the loop does actually break a few things. But I do believe Marinette would actually try to talk to her mother, or at the very least just come with them, just like how Adrian kind of breaks his rules of his house. Kagami confronts her mother once again, basically saying that she never really shows her any kind of affection like any other family. And her mother basically just answers her questions with more questions. You know how annoying that is. And Kagami kind of has enough of this. She wants a normal family, but Kagami's mother is like, why do you want to be normal? We could just have all this stuff here, and yada yada yada. It's kind of typical, kind of something you would actually know about some rich person's family, or at least though that trope, or at least a family who are having big expectations for you, but you seem to don't live up to that one, to those expectations. To be honest, I really think that for the most part, you can technically say that in a way, this is similar to like Todoroki and Endeavor from My Hero, but like just to a certain extent, not fully. But the dynamic here is pretty similar. Miss Tsurugi basically challenges Kagami to a duel, again, with sword fighting, not the card thing. And if Kagami wins, she'll get her answer, a definitive answer. A definitive answer that basically has some lot of loopholes in it. Not plot holes, just loopholes. She did explain that Kagami is her greatest joy. She does love her as much as, she actually is proud of her, which, to be honest, is not exactly too much. But you can tell that Miss Tsurugi doesn't exactly have that motherly feel towards Kagami like any mother would for their child. And unfortunately, it seems like all she really wanted in the end was a strong warrior that can live up to the Tsurugi name. Reciting the poem, or at least a haiku, that she said when she made Kagami. Kagami doesn't know this, but we know, as the audience, know this haiku that she said in the very beginning of the introduction of the episode. But Kagami doesn't really understand it. She wants to know if she really was made out of love and not some sort of ulterior motive. Fortunately, she never really got that much of an answer, but the haiku basically kind of proves that all Miss Tsurugi really wanted was a great warrior, not a daughter. Marinette called a few times, but by her last attempt is what we only see on screen, as, she left a voicemail, but nothing really happened. That's when Kagami came in, which is unfortunate because if you talk to Marinette right now, or Marinette called again right now, she would pick up the phone and maybe talk to her, and it would basically kind of get rid of at least maybe like 10 minutes of the episode. But episode gotta increase the length of this runtime, so we will stick to it. Because of this semi-confirmation from her mother, she does now believe that she's pretty much different. Kind of like her thoughts are coming to fruition. She's never gonna be loved just like her friends are. Never gonna be loved by their families. She's never gonna be as loved as them from her mother, which is yeah, that seems to be true. And considering about the rest of the series that we know about Mitsurugi and Kagami's dynamic, yeah, I don't think that's gonna be anytime soon, honestly. Asian parents, am I right? But then again, Marinette is also Asian, so like I don't think that's really a good, explanation for that. But technically, two sides of the same coin, I guess. So Kagami transforms and flies away. We cut back to Alya's home. Alya's not there. She's basically with Marinette, with her friends cooking. I'll show a screenshot of that quick. But after basically painting alone, Alya's mother basically want to lie down and rest a bit. While basically Alya's two sisters were just kind of playing. The mother told them to be quiet and just behave as she takes a rest, while the two girls, don't wanting their mother to work too hard, decide to paint the room themselves. Let's just say that it's going to get really messy in there. Yep, there you see, Alya and the rest of Marinette's friends are there basically cooking. Cooking for what? Don't know exactly. But I'll tell you this right now, just for the future later in the episode, that we do know that all these girls are getting another sleepover. Why they're cooking in Marinette's place, I don't know, as the sleepover will be taking place somewhere else. But they're all kind of concerned about Marinette just staying on her phone for a while. They ask what's up. She tried to call Kagami, not really answering. And Marinette does say that knowing that a friend is technically in a way in trouble, or at least feels like they're in trouble, she just can't help it but start to worry if she's not able to actually help them. Marinette is basically a good friend at heart, a heart of gold. Most people would like to have Marinette as a friend, honestly, just as a friend. But yeah, I do think that sometimes Marinette does need to learn how to, at least not to always butt in and stuff. It seems like she's learning. But yeah, to be honest, if you have a friend that you know is technically in a rough situation, you really wish that you can actually help, even though you don't exactly have the necessary needs to help that friend. So it is relatable in this sense. We cut back to the two little sisters, and they're going to paint the room with their art supplies, and they start to rush into the baby's room. Marinette and the others arrive to Kagami's home, which is a giant skyscraper with this big old box. So this big old box is similar to the box that we saw from season 5, not episode 5, I'm sorry. Season 5, which is by Gabriel Gress. So this is technically the last of what we saw for Gabriel's technology being used in the Tsurugi household. This guy is basically the receptionist in a way, this little box cube. They try to introduce themselves and tell the box they want to see Kagami, but the box says that she's out. They all have a plan to basically meet Kagami by splitting up to search for her in places that she's normally known to be at. Of course, Marinette does have a change of plans while telling the rest of her friends where on to go, and while her original place was trying to go somewhere else, I think it might be the river, she decides to actually search for her by just calling her. And if she doesn't have a very good answer, if any context clues that Kagami could actually say to her, she will look for her from there. I don't have the screenshot unfortunately because it's pretty quick, but Kagami was basically a giant cloud, just kind of sulking in the sky. Marinette doesn't know where she is, but when Kagami told Marinette that she won't be coming down, Ladybug puts two and two together, she might be in the sky. Going back to the twins, unfortunately the mother woke up. While she's kind of happy at first, she was really concerned that there was a giant trail of splattered paint across the floor. The girls are super dirty. And looking at the room, let me see if I got that screenshot because I know I did. Now, in one hand, it was pretty nice. You kind of have to wonder how the hell that the children got up. Maybe using the ladder, but that was pretty dangerous. But you can see the mother was shocked. And to be honest, she tried to keep the house clean already. Yeah, she was pretty much not happy. So going back to the twins, they try to wash themselves up, although noticing that their mother's pretty angry at them, they just don't understand exactly why. But because of her anger, they think that she doesn't like them anymore. Kids gotta be kids. Akumatization, yada yada yada. And well, you'll be surprised because this next few minutes for the rest of the episode, I hope that Nintendo doesn't actually sue them because this is really, well, you'll see. We do see that Julika is asking the store owner to see if, Kagami actually went by, but no. And that's when the attacks start. It seems like the twins are basically having this big old tank on their backs. They're attached to the tank and they're shooting a lot of this black stuff, which is ink. Their goal right now is to make all Paris dirty as possible so that their mess that they made at home won't look so dirty. That's the logic that the Hawkmoth gave them. Yeah. Also, listen, they have guns, they shoot ink, big giant backpacks. The only thing missing was basically them, attached to each other. And unfortunately, I don't have the next screenshot for about this, but at least currently, but they can actually teleport by using the ink. They can basically swim in it. Yeah, it's Splatooning time. After saving the store owner, at least pushing him away to safety, Julika ran and decided to transform and try to help out, stopping the akumatized villains. Going back up, we do see Kagami as this big cloud, and Ladybug's basically talking to her in her astral form. Marinette does say that not all families are perfect, and it's kind of hard to at least have a truly loving family. Marinette, in a way, knows this, and that's good. Unfortunately, she just says the wrong words, as Kagami retorts back that Marinette's parents were basically perfect. It's something that she wished that she actually has. Loving, affectionate parents that basically support her no matter what. While her mother basically is just the most very strict with her and trying to basically make her into something that she doesn't really want to be exactly. Right? It's the same old thing. And Marinette, which is good that she actually understands her fault. That she doesn't exactly mean that, she doesn't really mean that everybody is not perfect, but she just didn't take into account how lucky she is. Marinette basically affirms to Kagami that yes, she does have loving parents, and it's just because that she's lucky enough. There's a lot of people in the world that are just lucky enough to have parents like hers, but that does not mean that she wishes that, the opposite for any others. She really does want Kagami to actually at least have a family that's caring about her. But even though, yes, not a lot of people can be very lucky with their own parents and how they treat them. But the thing is, Marinette does bring up a good point, which is something that I do believe in for myself, as well. Friends are basically like a secondary family. They're not your main family, but you can always pick and choose who your friends are, and if you're just as close as you might be with your own family, you can consider them family too. I do believe that if you have a very good friendship with your own friends, they can feel similar to family. And the best thing is that you can always pick and choose who your friends are going to be in this type of family, of course. There's always going to be some bad ones here and there, but if you choose them correctly, they're just another batch of people that you can actually go to and have support from them as well. So yeah, it's not exactly the way I would describe it, and I am just summarizing what Marinette kind of says. It's not exactly what she actually says, but it's you get the gist of it. And I do actually believe what Marinette actually does say. And I do think that this is actually a good way to say it here. Your family might not be the best, but if you have friends who support you and of course care about you, sometimes giving you some affection as a friend, of course. We're not going to do that weird stuff, right? Just like normal friendships. So yeah, they can be like a secondary family. Marinette does actually hug the cloud form of Kagami. It's kind of funny, honestly. But Ladybug got a call from below from the rest of the team that's Kumatai's villain is on the loose. She flies away just after telling Kagami that when she's ready, she can come down and help them. But just think about that. Yeah, the villains are basically just inking up the whole space. Man, look at all this. This is something that you might see in a normal game round in like Turf War and Splatoon, honestly. With all the rest of the heroes trying to corner that villain, it's kind of getting very hard. So they gotta use some of their, you know, radio ears to basically talk to each other and coordinate. And hopefully they don't get too cornered, but also just to make sure to be on guard. Cat Noir doesn't actually have one, but Cat Noir is going to go with Ladybug because, they're always that duo. Unfortunately, Purple Tigress is the first one down, as while the two Kumatai's villains were basically swimming and teleporting and shooting their ink all over to make it hard to catch, the Hawk Moth basically sends a anti-Kuma. That's what it's called now. The anti-Kuma. To basically nullify their powers. So, yeah, Purple Tigress needs to de-transform somewhere else, recharge, and come back to the fray soon. The recharge time seems to be at least maybe inverse, maybe like 10 minutes. Yep, they just kind of spin around, and that's how the ink kind of flies. It's similar to the freaking sprinkler. Kind of fun, honestly, but it is pretty messy. Unfortunately, multi-mouses also hit. And of course, the villains just basically went back to their ink pool and teleport away. And then they went to the Eiffel Tower and decided to ink up the whole Eiffel Tower. Rena Rouge was nearby, so she used the Mirage to basically trick the villains to thinking that the ink was just gone instantly. They kept shooting the Eiffel Tower, but it always keeps seeming to be clean because Rena Rouge reapplies the Mirage on. That was until, just one more time when they're in below the Eiffel Tower. Ladybug Cat Noir jumps in and tried to catch them off guard. Unfortunately, it was not exactly the case as, they actually were able to run away a little bit while trying to shoot Rena Rouge. And unfortunately, they did actually swim and teleport right behind her, and with the Anti-Kuma already attaching itself to Rena Rouge, she has to de-transform and, recharge. Luckily, that's when Ryoku coming in with just the amount of aura farming as possible, and basically cleans off not just the Eiffel Tower, but in her dragon form. Water dragon form, I should say. Spins around and just kind of does a big AoE burst of water to clean off Paris. Unfortunately, this does actually clean up everything, and the two villains were basically pretty much pissed off. However, being surrounded by the heroes now, they shoot the ground with their ink and teleport somewhere else safe. I don't know where. It's somewhere. Their plan is to actually make a huge lightning storm. A huge lightning storm that the rain would actually be able to wash off all the ink if it was reapplied instantly. Ryoku never actually made a storm as big as Paris before, but all her friends encourage her to at least try and believe in herself. Ryoku does try going through each of the elemental forms that she does have after combining all three of them together, and with just the right amount of mental prowess, she was able to actually summon out Storm Dragon. In the Storm Dragon form, she creates a huge thunderstorm that instantly takes up all of Paris, and it starts to rain very heavily, lightning striking down every which way. And yeah, with the ink trying to be reapplied, it just gets instantly washed away. Kind of how like Splatoon ink kind of works, right? Of course, our heroes basically use the storm as to their advantage, with Multi-Mouse using the water drops as just since she's small enough, use the water drops to mask herself and trip up, while Purple Tigress actually uses the lightning bolt itself to use clout to punch the. So yeah, I don't know why Purple Tigress at this point in time seems to be very bloodthirsty right now. I think she was trying to crack the tank open, but with the combination of being like the lightning bolt itself, I don't think the girls would survive that. After dodging those two attacks technically, unfortunately, they both got stopped by a combination of Venom and Cataclysm. Venom was basically applied directly to one of the villains. Since they're both attached to the giant tank, they both get paralyzed, with Cat Noir destroying the tank, and the Akuma is basically free, and you know the rest. The girls are basically returned home, and of course getting that final confirmation that their mother still loves them, and while yes, she would love them more if they, didn't make a mess, even if she's angry at them, she'll always love them because it's just a minor thing. It was just a minor inconvenience. Because this whole time, she was just really worried about them. And trust me, if your parents worry about you, if you are missing for a while, it does mean that they actually do care about you. If they didn't care about you, they would just say fuck off. When they were about to set off, Kagami calls Ladybug just before Ladybug's actually ready to leave. She wants to give her a hug, just as a thank you for always being there for her and always being there to encourage, and show at least some affection, because she really needs it. And just as a thank you, to just remind her that she's not alone in this world. It's pretty sweet. Kagami returns back to her home by the window. And yeah, I think it's already safe to say that Mitsurugi already knows that Kagami is Ryoku. Duh. I think it's been already explained in that one episode in this season. So yeah. But while Mitsurugi was pretty much very impressed with Kagami's handle on making that storm, she thinks that she's ready for the next step of her training. However, Kagami has different ideas. She refused to actually take up the training to get stronger by her mother's standards, as it would just kind of ruin her in terms of a social view. So she decides to actually take this time to actually take a break and actually spend time with her friends, because with her own little, rhyme that she gave, soft heart under scales, which makes sense. She has a hard exterior, but deep down she has a soft heart for the people she cares about. So yeah, we do see Kagami, Marinette, and Alya in this sleepover, basically just having the night of their lives, or at the very least for this night. And while basically Marinette does kind of joke around a bit, she does act, and also kind of in a way, Alya, kind of both of them asking if Kagami was basically okay. Kagami says yes, and she's just really glad to have friends like them that she can actually rely on and fall back to. Before the episode ends, Mitsurugi is just kind of thinking here about the day, but somebody appeared. It's the new Hawkmoth, and we all know it's all Lila. And after this talk, while Mitsurugi was not really interested on what Lila has to say, Lila does bring up a point that Mitsurugi might just be very bored because she has no one else to train. Meaning that Kagami basically kind of quit her training with her mother and decided to live on with just being a normal girl anyway. But Lila takes this opportunity, and it does seem like behind the shadows, Mitsurugi was training Lila this whole time. And that's basically it for the episode. Episode 18, okay, I'm gonna say this. It's almost perfect, I would say, but I feel like I want to remove points just because of where the hell, like, you know, Disney put this in. Remember, Disney is basically in charge of not just the release, not just the writing and the animation right now, but also just the release order. And releasing part one, the supposed part one of the season finale, and then you just like release episode 18 is just crazy to me. Like, why not part two, like the continuation, maybe the actual season finale? I don't know, but we are very close, and hopefully we don't go back again, because I recounted the episodes again, and yeah, episode 18 was the one that was missing, and they released it. I don't know why it took them this long. It took them to release the season finale. They took them to release the first part of the season finale to go to 18 after that. It's just weird, but thankfully that's about it. Episode 25 is basically next. It's not released yet. I don't know when, but when it does, I'll be reviewing it and I'll let you guys know. For now, episode 18 is actually pretty nice. I give it a 7 out of 10 because, well, I say 7, I think it's maybe 8 out of 10, but I only say 7 out of 10 because of how much I have to explain and how many times I messed up my own words. It's kind of hard for me to actually explain, but I think the lesson here is pretty obvious, right? It is okay to be jealous about your friend's parents in a way, and it's not exactly just you, right? Some people might actually have the same situations, and as for people who are very lucky to have their parents, they should at least like cherish the parents that they actually have, because you got off lucky. It could have been worse, but for Kagami, there is a good lesson that if a family that you have is not exactly the best, and we all hope that maybe if you're watching, your family is actually pretty nice to you and are at least pretty average, like at least they care about you, right? That's like the bare bones thing. But even to say that, even if your parents are not exactly there for you, if you have friends and you care about them, and if they care about you as you do about them, they can count as a secondary family. Now, in terms of maybe for the younger adults, or at least the teenagers, I feel like for teenagers and younger kids, this is pretty good. It's good to have friends that you consider family, as you trust them just as much as you trust your parents, supposedly. But it is very much more complicated, as this is a matter not just for typical Asian people. I mean, as an Asian myself, yeah, this is pretty normal in terms of like for Kagami. Parents being like this is pretty common in the Asian tradition, but there's always a lucky few, like Marinette, that has loving parents. And yeah, and I do believe that this can actually be said for normal people, every person out there, basically. I mean, I said normal is more like the average person. That's what I kind of meant. I didn't mean normal as an actual normal. I hope you guys didn't take that the wrong way. Either way, yeah, I kind of have a bit of a hard time actually explaining this, because it's kind of hard to actually explain this without making this episode seem worse overall. But I think in terms of the context of the story that's telling, I think it's pretty good. 7 out of 10. I just wish I can make it an 8 out of 10, but I think I just kind of myself kind of butchered this episode by just talking about it, because it's kind of hard to actually explain it. I wish it wasn't this long, but yeah. My name's Sampo. At the very least, we'll get to go to the season finale, part 2 possibly, I hope, soon. So, catch y'all later.